Welcome to CIHT Podcasts.
So thanks for joining us. My name is Justin Ward and you're listening to a CIHT podcast produced in support of International Women in Engineering Day. This annual event, held on the 23rd of June, focuses on the amazing careers in engineering and technical roles for girls and celebrates the achievement of our outstanding women engineers. I am with one of these outstanding individuals, Dana Skelley, Director of Asset Management at Transport for London, and soon to take on a role as Director of Strategy and Operational Excellence at Skanska Civil Engineering. Welcome, Dana. Can we start in 1914? World War I was a catalyst for women to work in more roles as men were conscripted. Women began to take on roles previously unavailable to them, for instance as train and bus drivers. Accelerate to the Second World War, and alongside conscription for women in 1941 and female code breakers at Bletchley Park, there is a wonderful, somewhat unknown story of Waterloo Bridge, often called the Ladies' Bridge as a result of the significant numbers, 25,000 of women working in construction, that built it. Have these developments been sustained in terms of supporting women into the transport and engineering fields since then?
That's a good question. And certainly those activities during the wars showed that women can do these roles. So, importantly, it shows that there really aren't any roles that are gender specific in terms of capability. I think that's an important learning from that. And actually the women really enjoyed those roles when you see them interviewed, women who've worked in these traditionally male roles. There are so many of them who really enjoyed the experience, but you're right, it did come to an end after the war, and generally speaking, men returned to do traditionally male roles after the wars, and that was a reflection of our societal setup at the time, I think. But things have moved on. There's certainly a socio-economic makeup at the moment where women are certainly keen to be equal in the workplace and indeed in marriages, in working lives. But that doesn't seem to somehow or other have stretched into the technical world yet. It doesn't seem to have entered the world of engineering in terms of the balance. I mean, you certainly see it in medicine, you see it in law, you see it in other professions, even IT, but the world of engineering doesn't seem to have balanced in terms of its gender numbers, does it? So we get something like 6% of women are engineering at the moment. I think it's something like 10% who actually study engineering, even less actually join the workforce. And you often find that women don't return to the world of engineering, perhaps once they've taken a few years off to bring up children, for example, and they find it very difficult to return to the industry. So it didn't have a big enough influence, but it certainly showed that women are certainly capable of doing these jobs and doing them very well. Yeah,
and then you studied civil engineering at university. What attracted you to engineering?
Well, I've always been inspired by the environment, by bridges in particular, by architecture. As a child, I was always inspired by fan vaulting in cathedrals and flying buttresses and that whole aspect of building. I also happened to be quite good at maths at school, so I just found myself thinking a combination of an interest in construction and in maths will send me in the direction of civil engineering. I did actually think of studying architecture, and that was more of a dream because I realised that whilst I love architecture, I don't actually have that spatial creativity awareness that architects have. So I thought I'll use the maths and the engineering, but I can work with architects to create.
Yeah. And on the course, how many women were there?
So there was only one, 150 people on the course, only one woman. Although I didn't particularly notice it, I have to say. But I was told by a lecturer that women generally underachieve in civil engineering, and he expected me to as well.
And then you went to Wandsworth Council, and then you joined TfL in 2000 as principal engineer for the City of London. Just over 1 in 5 of the staff at TfL are women, and there is a similar proportion when it comes to senior managers. What could other organisations, perhaps with lower levels of representation of women, learn from what TfL's done?
I think it's important for organisations to have role models of good, professional behaviour and success. I think it's very important to help organisations deal with their unconscious bias, which is natural in people and organisations. So if you do have a male-dominated organisation, a male-dominated industry, the recruitment will tend to reflect that because people have a natural tendency to want to recruit in their own kind of
own self-image. Yeah.
So I think making sure that we train people to remove those unconscious biases is a very helpful thing to do. Not easy, but helpful to do. I think also it's a fact that in terms of promotional opportunities, men will apply for promotional opportunities when they have, say, half of the attributes needed, whereas women will only apply when they're confident that they've got at least 80% of the attributes. So there's something about line managers and people in organisations actually encouraging women to be ambitious, and we all behave in different ways, and it's important to get good line management in organisations so that people value people for what they contribute to the organisation and develop their strengths.
And in terms of governance for the industries, TfL had the TfL Surface Transport Equality and Inclusion Board that you chaired. Was that play a strong role in that kind of culture change in terms of...
Yeah, what that board was successful in doing was combining our obligations in terms of an accessible London for all in terms of public transport. So our customers, understanding our customers, doing all sorts of things in terms of making our networks and our public transport services more accessible, but also working with our own workforce to create a more equal and diverse. One of the things we found, interestingly, at TfL was the language that's used in job descriptions actually makes a difference to attracting men or women to even apply in the first place. So we have had very low numbers in our enforcement and on-street service world of women even applying for it at all. And we found through focus groups that words like enforce, control actually put women off. But actually there are other words that do exactly the same. And we found we increased the pool of women applying for these roles by up to, I think we went from 11% to 50% in terms of women applying for these roles just by changing the language in job descriptions. And it's those boards like the Equality and Inclusion Board where we share that sort of best practice across our organisation.
And that covered, interesting. And Mike Brand, London's Transport Commissioner, has called you a true ambassador for promoting equality and helping hundreds of female graduates and apprentices to get their first step onto the engineering ladder. It's quite an accolade. How have you done this?
Well, one of the things that I'm very keen to do is to give opportunities for people to come into the world of engineering, and actually, particularly in terms of apprentices, not everybody has had the opportunity to have work experience and be able to do what is generally done in interviews in terms of be able to talk about previous work experience or what have you. So we've actually changed the way we recruit our graduates and apprentices, and we base it on a strength approach. We're actually looking at what people see their strengths as, what they're interested in, and how they've applied that perhaps in their life so far, rather than necessarily having to have work experience. So I think having a different approach to recruitment where we're really looking at people's strengths and drawing out their strengths with the development has been one of the things that we've done. I mean, it's difficult because this question is actually about drawing people into the organisation, isn't it? And, so that's about recruitment. Whereas
the language, that's
one of the ones. The language wise is an interesting one. But I do think more and more women. I mean, we've got a fantastic women's staff network at TfL, and actually those networks are really useful places for people to share experiences. And they're often chaired by the engineering community at TfL, and I think having those support networks is actually really important as well. One of the things that have recently been introduced, and I can't take credit for it at all, but I think it's absolutely brilliant, is male allies. So we've got a group of male allies who are part of the women's network who are supporting getting more numbers of women into the transport industry generally.
Good. No, it's clearly lots of really good work. And then in 2015, you got an OBE for services to transport in London. Aside from the sense of professional achievement, what might you hope it could do to encourage women to consider a career in transport, including engineering? Perhaps going back to that lecturer who said
that's right.
that helpful comment. Yeah.
Well, I think of the award as actually being for all that hundreds and thousands of people that have worked with me to achieve what's been achieved over, that I've worked with and had the pleasure and benefit of working with. Because one of the things we haven't talked about here, but actually, delivering a brilliant environment, and engineering is about teams and it's about people integrating, and actually, that's one of the things I'm certainly most proud of is creating an environment where people are valued for their contributions, trying to get diverse integrated teams, and that's one of the legacies I hope I leave.
And the new role at Skanska Civil Engineering, will you be driving the agenda of diversity and inclusion?
Definitely. This is an industry issue. I've made so many contacts and certainly shown my commitment to it in the industry generally. So I'm looking forward to being able to do that from the supplier side rather than from the client side.
Good. Well, good luck with the next move, and thanks, and well done on all the achievements over the time. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this CIHT podcast. CIHT has a range of useful resources, from the Diversity and Inclusion Toolkit and Charter to the CIHT Careers Toolkit, that will help to inspire future generations. Have a look at our website for information on this and other initiatives. We are fully supportive of International Women in Engineering Day and urge you to back it too.